Spoilers ahead for Night at the Museum. Okay, so I've been, like, really obsessed with Night at the Museum lately, and I know exactly when it happened. It's like a week ago, and I was thinking about that one scene in the movie where they're trying to, like, stab the tire, and it's Jed and Octavius, and they get up close, and they stab it, and all the air is going, and they're like, ah, and then far away, it's like, tss, and you get up close, and it's like, ah, and you get far away, and it's like, tss. Anyway, but in the process of this, I discovered there's actually a fan base for this thing. I didn't know there was a fandom, but Night at the Museum has a fandom, and it's very small and very cute, and I put a couple posts on Tumblr, and a bunch of people, like, greeted me really excitedly, and they were all like, you know, our fandom may be small, but our hearts are large, metaphorically speaking, and I'm like, my god, I found a happy place. This is gonna be fun. But in light of that, I've actually been thinking a lot about how the tablet works. We don't actually know what it does to bring everything to life. Like, yeah, okay, so we got some undead pharaoh that comes to life, and my god, he's alive, yada yada, and all these magical wax figures and tiny figurines and taxidermied animals are all like, hey, I'm alive now, but I'm like, how far does it go? So I'm gonna talk about that. So like I said, I've been thinking a lot about the tablet of Achman Ra from Night at the Museum. Now we know already that it brings the museum exhibits to life. It also has the ability to raise the dead, seeing as Achman Ra, his parents, and a whole bunch of mummies from the third movie were all able to awaken in one way or another. But they didn't come to life as like decaying undead husks. No, they were like fully flesh and blood, looking like they were when they were alive, like, yeah. But are they fully alive? Are they completely reformed internally and externally with everything intact, or is it only a mirage? Because, I mean, ancient Egyptians would mummify the dead of the Egyptian elite. And that process involved, you know, removing the internal organs and preserving them and burying them in the tomb with the sarcophagus of the person that died. Now, the heart was left in the body, and that was part of their whole belief that life after death was possible, but only if the body was preserved in a recognizable state, hence mummification and whatnot. But moving on. So to get back on the subject, when Achman Ra is brought to life by his tablet every night, does the magic of the tablet, like, bring him back in one piece? Are all of his organs still left in the jars they were preserved in? Does he need to eat? Can he eat? Does he require the same, you know, basic human necessities as any other living person? Or is he just exempt from that because of the tablet? And that's not even touching on the exhibits. Now, I think there's a difference in how different exhibits in the museum are brought to life. I mean, if you look at bronze and stone statues like the Thinker and Columbus, they still look like the materials that they were built from, but they're able to move, somehow. Meanwhile, if you look at the wax figures and the miniatures, they don't look anything like what they usually look like during the day. Teddy Roosevelt does not have waxy skin, and Jed and Octavius both look like real people, whereas if you were looking at the miniatures up close, they don't look like real people when they're actually on display. I mean, they look human. They can talk and breathe like a normal person, but just how far does that actually go? Now, in the first film, we see the wax figure of Theodore Roosevelt get run over by a stagecoach and cut in half, which he doesn't even seem to feel, nor is he hurt by it. And shortly thereafter, he's easily put back together by Sacagawea with some fire and some wax and careful, crafty hands. Now, he doesn't seem to feel it, but as far as I can tell, the miniatures feel something, because in the various scuffles between Octavius and Jedediah, the Cowboys, the Romans, the Mayans, whatever, they seem to feel some kind of pain. Near the end of the first film, we see Jedediah slam the butt of his gun down on Octavius' foot, and he's clearly hurt by it. I mean, look at this.
Woman's work alone.
Ow! That didn't hurt. Don't be a baby.
Yes, it did.
Come on. Ah, that was much harder.
Guys, come on.
I haven't had the time to go back and watch all the films again, but do Jed and Octavius gain any bruises or scuffs from the various battles they have through the film series? Do they actually have the capacity to get hurt and for it to hurt? Outside of them being outside at sunrise, can they actually die from regular injuries? Now, this brings us around to a plot point from the second film, in which Jedediah is trapped inside a slowly filling hourglass by Ka-Mun-Ra. Ka-Mun-Ra, who I actually believe to be a wax figure in this film. When Larry arrives to help his friends and finds them frozen because the tablet is effectively turned off, Ka-Mun-Ra is also standing there in all his glory, fully frozen, just like all the rest. He isn't a pile of mummified remains, therefore he is most likely a wax figure replica of the actual historical figure. Anyway, Jedediah appears to be in danger. He seems genuinely worried about asphyxiation by sand, and Larry is racing against the clock to save his life. When Octavius goes to speak to Jedediah later, during the big battle scene, and Jed is still in the hourglass, he seems to be waxing poetry about how he'll never survive this, and it's the end for him. I ain't gonna make it. I'm afraid this cowboy's been to his last hoedown. Octavius, remember me as I was, wild and free, and... You get the picture. Basically, he's trying to say his last farewell, which, of course, Octavius doesn't allow him to do because he saves him moments later, but that's not the point. Jed seems to think he's honestly about to die. Though, knowing Jedediah, this could just be him playing along and being dramatic for Ka-Mun-Ra's sake, since he's literally in the hands of the villain right now. Seeing as they seem to feel pain, if this keeps him from getting hurt another way, he'll gladly let himself get buried in some sand. I mean, it basically makes up 90% of his Wild West exhibit back in the Natural History Museum anyway, so he's kinda used to it. It could all be Jedediah being the dramatic cowboy for the sake of the dumb shit pharaoh who doesn't actually know how his brother's tablet works and doesn't realize that Jed doesn't need to breathe. Or maybe he does. I still don't know yet. So just how far does the tablet's magic go? Just how much does this tablet do for Achman around the museum exhibits? How much of Ach is real and how much is an illusion? How much of the wax figures and miniatures and taxidermied African mammals actually organic and how much is still synthetic? When they eat or drink, does the food just vanish come morning or does it become one with whatever material the exhibits are made of? Or can they even eat and drink at all? I've been puzzling over this for days and I would honestly love to know what some of the answers to these impossible questions could be.